Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development monthly webinar. My name is Philip Graves. I'll be your host today, but I also serve as your Customer Success Manager for Louisiana. So glad to have everybody here. Before we kind of get started, I want to introduce a few pieces on the headlight side, as well as on the Louisiana Department of Transportation and Development side from the E-Construction Group. So without further ado, let me go ahead and introduce. I believe we have on today Mark Stackhouse. He's our Learning Program Manager. He's on the call today. Mark, would you say hi to the people?
Good afternoon, everybody. Excited to be here. You guys have got a lot of fun stuff in store today. I'm excited.
Awesome. Thank you. We also have Casey Leah. She's a Customer Success Manager on the East Coast. She also works very closely with a few of the consultants in the Louisiana area. So Casey, would you like to say hi as well?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Happy to be along again for the ride today.
Awesome. Thank you, Casey. I appreciate that. I don't know if he's on or not, but we also have Nathan Johns. He's our Customer Experience Manager on the headlight side, as well as we have our Strategic Account Manager for the Louisiana area, Breck White.
Nice to meet you.
Awesome. Thank you, Breck. I appreciate that. Now I'll go ahead and introduce to some of the people on the E-Construction side of Louisiana as well. And I'll let actually my co-host today, Les Fletcher, be able to explain those people on his side. So Les, without further ado.
Thanks, Phil. Hey, everybody. Good afternoon. Glad to have you on here. Hopefully the invite we sent out this time made it a little easier on you to schedule this thing in. Looks like we have lots of people on here, so that's great. Just looking forward today to introduce a new feature for you. And Phil's got some great demo stuff for you. And I know I'm on here. It looks like we have Jeffrey Poche on here. He is with the E-Construction Group. And I think I saw Patrick. Sorry, I can't see everybody. I'm not sure who all we have on here. But anyway, you guys know most of us by now. We've done a few of these. So I think I'm good, Phil. If you're ready to get started, let's do it.
Awesome. We can kind of get started. Thank you for those introductions. So the first thing that we normally do in the monthly webinar is we normally have a round table, okay? And that round table is for you guys to be able to drop in the chat or say out loud a few of those things. One second. So it allows you guys to be able to drop in the chat or either state out loud some of those things that you might experience, that you have questions about. Feel free to let us know, and we try to answer those within a 10-minute span. We try to get to some of those and walk through some of those. So if you guys have anything that you came to this meeting saying, hey, I can't wait to get with Headlight or E-Construction to kind of dive into some of those things that we may have experienced in the field or have some questions about, feel free to do so. Anybody got one out there? Anybody drop one in the chat? Any questions, statements? I know last week I really appreciated, was it last week? Not last week, but yeah, sometime within the last 2 weeks, Jimmy Hammond was able to send over to us some questions that he had in regards to the software and how we currently solve for them and how we plan on solving for some of those in the future. So I appreciate that. If you don't have them right off the top of your head right now, always create those and send them to us. I just saw Dallas. Oh, Amber?
Yes, we are having trouble with headlights syncing to LaPave, and our asphalt tonnages aren't going in. So we're having to send our paperwork, handwritten paperwork in to get the lab to enter our tonnages.
Could you give me, Amber, could you give me kind of like a specific scenario of like example of how that happens?
We doing our pavement reports and headlights.
Okay.
And entering all our information, but nothing is syncing up with LaPave. The only thing that's in LaPave is what the contractor is entering. So we're having to print our payment reports off a headlight and send those to the lab, and the lab guys having to enter them by hand into LaPave.
Gotcha. Okay.
Hey Phil, that's the roadway report. that
Gotcha.
they put the tonnage in and it's not sinking back. That's what she's saying. It's the roadway report. When they put the tonnage on that, it's not sinking back.
Gotcha. Um,
But Philip, can I address that?
yes, go ahead.
I guess we need to go ahead and address the elephant in the room. So I know most of you, or hopefully all of you, have heard about the site manager migration. And although all the data was migrated over correctly and all that seemed to be working, it has caused some other issues. And so it is still down. Like site manager itself works pretty okay, but especially the limbs portion of it almost is not working at all. And it also is causing LePave to come up and down. So pretty much LePave will go down every 30 minutes or so, and it has to be, OTS has to go in and kind of restart it, and then it'll start working again. So Amber, a lot of the problems you're talking about there are related to that. I will say we do have a ticket in with Headlight about specifically about the tonnage not going over, but the sinking part is most likely due to LePave going up and down. And that's, all those issues we're having with site manager because of the emergency migration. And I do not have an update. We have not really heard a timeline on when that might be fixed. We just keep hearing that OTS is working on it. So I wish I could give you some better news than that. We are starting to make some plans outside of that that hopefully we can get put in place so that you guys can at least get your job done. So anyway, that's all I have on it. Patrick, do you have something?
Yeah, we don't have a timeline, but the latest is they have Oracle subject matter experts, which is where the database is sitting in the cloud. We have experts from the ones that or the vendor that supplies DOTD with the encryption tunnel for VPN access. And we have all of our network staff on it through OTS, and they still cannot put their finger on what is causing the bottleneck. And I've sat in on a lot of the network calls, and they've tried everything under the sun and still cannot put their finger on it. But in respects to the sync issue, if you can send us some examples here at eConstruction, we can trace and basically get an idea of what's going on and confirm if it is that issue or if something else is going on.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. And just for anybody who might not know what that email address is, it's e-construction@la.gov. Okay, I'll say that again. That's e-construction@la.gov. And you can send it over there. And you can also, to make sure that we have it in 2 spots, make sure to include our CC support@headlight.com as well. If we could we get everyone to make sure that their mics are muted? We're getting a little feedback, and we want to make sure that everybody can clearly hear some of the questions as well as the demonstration as we go through them. Thank you. Appreciate it. All right. Do we have any more questions out there or anything that anybody would like to mention in regards to their experiences in the field as of late, or think that somebody might be able to help them while we have a good bit of folks on the call that could provide assistance?
I have another one.
Gotcha. Shoot.
In the materials app, I've been writing up IDs, and I had this problem and I talked to Les already, but my P number or my D number that it shows up first on all my samples, it's been disappearing. So the sample number hasn't been as long, the ID.
Gotcha.
But on some, it does not. So I've done reinstalled Headlight materials several times, and it keeps on doing that. And then also writing up samples, I attach test, but the lab cannot see the test that I attach. Okay. So they aren't seeing what I'm doing on their end either.
Gotcha. Amber, this is something that we're currently working on, and we have noticed it amongst a few others as well, where it's happening not every time, but intermittently. And we're working right now to try to see how we can get those fixed and narrow those down to seeing where that issue is being caused and how we can actually fix it. So, if you're able to supply us with your examples, I think that will kind of help. But this is something that's at the top of our list. It's a priority right now. And as we gain more information on it, we'll be make sure to provide it to you guys. But I know that I can always come by your unit or, talk to you in regards to that. But this is something that we want to try to gather more information on. So that way we can solve for it pretty quickly. Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. Amber, every time that you get a sample ID that is not the correct format, if you could screenshot that and send it into support@headlight.com. We had a meeting earlier with Headlight, and what you're talking about is on the high priority list of that, and it looks like they are planning a solution within the next 2 weeks, but they are looking for examples that they can go in the back end and check, check out what's going on with them, since they're kind of intermittent and it's hard to find them. So every time that happens to anybody on the call, anytime you have a sample ID that is not the correct format, it starts with your personnel number and ends with the long list of digits after that, go ahead and, grab that screenshot of it or type it into an email and send it in support@headlight.com so we can start diving into those. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Amber, for both of those.
I'm sorry, and let me follow up with the last part of that. She said that it was not, the lab could not see the tests that you were attaching to it. That is directly related to the problem we're having with LIMS right now. That is not really a Headlight issue. That's because LIMS is not functioning correctly.
Awesome. So I think that we have pretty much covered pretty much all of our questions, unless I'm missing anybody. One last chance, going once, twice.
Les, what do I need to do to fix it so that the lab can see it?
We don't have answers. Even if you were doing them in LIMS, they likely couldn't see it. Like from what I'm hearing, the labs have stacks of tests just piling up, and sometimes they're able to put test results in early in the morning. Sometimes they're able to enter them in the afternoon. It's just kind of we don't know what to do with it yet until OTS can get it corrected. Kevin, do you have anything to say on that? Is that kind of what you're seeing in O2?
Yes, the only thing you technically could do is if the lab went in, whoever has access can enter add the test. If the test wasn't showing up, you can kind of add the test and then the lab can go in and enter it. If they could get in the site manager when it's working and add the test, then that would solve the problem for the time being. I don't know if that's a solution, but that's something you could do if you needed to test and the results entered. Somebody in the lab should have access to add the test to that particular sample.
I see Amanda has dropped some chat in here. She has backed up samples. Thank you for that, Amanda. Are you able to get into LIMS and add tests? Have you tried that, Amanda?
I know I can do it from here in O2.
It doesn't let me see the samples at all if it's not sent to the lab, and it's not essentially sent to the lab without a lab test in LIMS.
I got you.
So now I will say this: the last couple of times that happened, it was in received. Even if you would scan it in, it stayed in received, and we had to physically go into LIMS and hit received, and then it actually added it to the test. It's something to do with how it's coming over. It stayed in received and never came out of received. So if you go into enter test, it never showed up. But if you went into received, we had 2 samples that were still in received. And if you went check them in that, then it went to enter test. I don't know if that is her issue, but that's something we experienced this morning.
Yeah, that's not what's happening with me, because I've checked everywhere. And I can look on Headlight and see the test is there in LIMS and the test is not there.
Yeah, we
It's always aggregates. It's only aggregates that's doing it to it. That I have a whole different problem with the ones that keep getting kicked back. That's all concrete.
That's good to know. I did not know that part of it.
Each lab should have a super user that can actually go manually add those either on the LIMS or the site manager side. But anything that references the site manager database between LePave, between your scanners, between some of the Headlight syncs, when it gets choked and the connectivity basically drops to nothing, we're seeing cases where some of that data is not going across the way it should. We're seeing cases where part of it makes it, part of it doesn't. So it's, anything and everything that you see, if you have examples, please report it to us. We're basically trying to get as much information in front of the people that are working on this as we can.
All righty. So make sure you guys capture those 2 email addresses that are dropped in the chat and use any reference that you might have or any issue that you experience. Feel free to share them to the both of those emails. That way we can kind of keep track of those, as well as keep a log and make sure that we are considering all factors when we're making that solution to try to help solve for it. Okay. The next thing that we want to do today, guys, is go through our demonstration period. On today, you guys have, it's pretty much, I'll be doing a twofer. I'll be showing you guys how to quick image capture, as well as how you would be able to bulk tag those images after you capture them. And then on the other hand, Les is going to actually work through the much anticipated soil moisture and density form, show you guys how to use it, how to access it, and how to submit it. So those are the 2 demonstrations that we have on today. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and jump into the first one. The first one is going to be on quick image capturing. So let me go ahead and share my screen. All right. Can everyone see my screen? Hopefully it's visible. Everybody can see it.
You can see it.
Yep.
Awesome. So commonly,
can see it.
all right, thank you. Commonly when in the field or when talking to people, most of the time they say, well, Phil, I'm very busy. I don't really have time, but I want to be able to quickly capture a few pictures and then label them later. Inside of the Headlight software, there is a way for you to be able to do so, okay? I don't know if many of you have noticed on the side in that first column that you're seeing on my screen, you should see where there is journals, spreadsheets, reports, forms, academy, plus new, okay? When you tap on the plus new actually allows you the ability to see everything that's available to you, from journals to spreadsheets to report types and form types, okay? However, this window actually serves another purpose. If you look in the top right corner of this pop-up window, you would see where it says Edit Favorites. When I click on it, it will allow you to be able to select any of these journal observations, spreadsheet observations, or report types for you to be able to add inside of the main menu, okay? Now already you see where mine says next to image and next to my daily that they're already checked off, but I'll go ahead and show you guys exactly how I would check those off again. I'm just gonna tap on that plus button right next to image, and I'll also put back the plus button next to my daily, okay? By me checking off image and me checking off my daily, I'll go ahead and tap in the top right corner and hit done. Both of those are now saved in my main menu that I'm moving right here in this first column to your left, okay? And the way that is helpful for you as far as quick images are concerned, when I hit the image button in that first menu section over there, it allows for me to be able to quickly capture photos. So for example, I'll go ahead and tap on it. You notice that I'm able to take a picture of this plant right here. After I take it, I'll hit the green check, hit save. And then now I can tap it once again, that image in the first column. And then I'll be able to take a picture of the monitor, capture it, then hit save. And now you notice that I have 2 quick photos, and then I can come back later and be able to enter in the information for the dynamic labels. Everything on these 2 photos are captured on the spot, right? So you'll see that the Latin long is exactly where I took those photos, which I can show you right there. And then you'll notice that all of the metadata that is needed for these 2 observations is all here, okay? So now when I come back later, whether I'm at the office, whether I take it to another site, I can then fill that information in. Now, part 2 to this demonstration on today is to show you how easy it is. Say, for example, I took 5 photos, and then I also took a narrative or video as well included with that. It's very easy for me to come back and enter some of those main details, for example, like the line item that I'm working on, as well as the contractor, okay? If you haven't used it already, it's very simple. You would just hit the blue select button. I would then either select those observations that I just took, or I can hit select all if I know it's a series of them. After I select them, at the bottom, you'll see how many observations you have collected, which it says to selected. You'll also notice that there's delete, email, clone, edit labels, and create document. When you're bulk tagging or bulk labeling, you would hit edit labels. It'll pull up the 4 dynamic labels that we have in each observation, and then you will be able to select all of them that apply to these observations. So for example, for me, I will go ahead and just use the first contract that I see just for this demo. Then I will go ahead and select the line item. I'm just going to use clearing and grubbing for right now. I will use the tap away method. And then you would have those show up. Let me go ahead and make sure I do that again. 1, 2. And you will be able to see them. This is a demo project, so sometimes it starts to act up, but that's exactly how you will be able to do it. As you can see, it was already attached. It really just needed a second to actually load up on this demo project. But that's how you would be able to bulk tag as well as use the quick image capturing. There are a lot of scenarios out there where this may come in handy. I noticed that sometimes when you're watching a concrete pour or you're doing asphalt, or you have to jump from one end of the project to the other to be able to capture some things, you can actually use the quick image capturing of observations to be able to do so, okay? And then you can come back and label it later. I can fill in all of the details that are needed, like the title of my images, if there was any equipment that was showing, if there were any tags that I might have wanted to add to that image, I can do all of that later and know that I've already captured the exact location where I wanted it to be, as opposed to where I am coming in to fill in most of those details. So hopefully this helps you guys. This right now is probably the best solution. I can tell you right now, just from practice and experience, that I've been able to capture about 8 pictures in a matter of only 30 seconds in the field. So that's a really quick time, and it's also very beneficial and helpful. Do we have any questions around how you quick image capture, as well as how you would be able to go in here and bulk tag? Anybody? Hopefully you guys can actually use this in the field. But if you have any questions, feel free, reach out to me or reach out to Casey if she's helping you on your account, or you can feel free to drop a message to us as far as support@headlight.com or eConstruction. So now I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, Les, if you want to go through the soil moisture and density form.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate that demonstration there. It's always great to see some features that we don't use regularly that might help us be just a little bit more efficient out in the field whenever we can, you know. Appreciate you. All right. Well, you're gonna have to stop your share so I can start mine.
Awesome. There you go.
So I get the privilege today to start to share something new with at least most of you. There are let's see what screen I got here. 3. There are a few people on this call that have seen this before. We have shared this out to Headlight created this for us maybe 6 months ago. And we've shared it out. There's about 3 offices that were trying it out for us, and had great success with it. A couple of soil cement jobs they were using it on. It's probably much anticipated by most of you, because it is just one of those paper forms that you got to fill out now and keep up with, and hopefully this helps you out a little bit in that. We were waiting for a while to get one thing corrected on the line item, and then we've been waiting on putting some training together, and this will serve as some of that training, although this is not going to be exhaustive. I'm just going to kind of go through it, show you a lot of the features, but it won't show you everything about the form. I am putting together a video that we'll upload to the YouTube page, and hopefully that'll get you closer. And then if you need anything other than that, you're welcome to call me and I'll walk through it with you personally. So I really like this form. It's probably my favorite one so far. It does a lot of cool things, and hopefully it helps you guys out. So starting here, I'm in the materials app and starting on the test project. I already created a sample just to save a little bit of time. Most of you know how to create a sample in materials already. And you can see this is in place cement treated base course. I added a line item here, a destination lab. One of the important things, this is field tests for units. And so you will add your lab, your unit lab. And then when you add your test, you don't have to add all 4 of these. It depends on what you're doing, but I added all 4 just to show you what the form is capable of. So the form is capable of doing your 3-point curve, your moisture density relationship. It is capable of doing your determination of moisture content calculations, your pulverization calculations, and you can also put in your densities. So some of you might be saying, why do we need a form with this? We got a paper form. Well, what this does is similar to the structural concrete form, is it eliminates the limbs portion for you. Now, I know we're having some problems with limbs right now. I have tested this. Some of it works most of the time, but there are still some lingering issues there. So beware when we turn this on for you. You'll have to check it and make sure it's working for you. And if not, send it in. But for the most part, it's been working for me. All of my stuff has been going over to test like it's supposed to. So it's the same way you always create a form. You create your sample ID first, and then you're going to tie that form to it. And so we're going to hit create form, and then we're going to do soil moisture and density report. We refer to it as SMD. So that's our little nickname for it. And probably it's a lot easier to say than soil moisture and density every time. Now, there is a place here that you can rename it. Feel free to do that if it works out on your project and you want to keep up with your forms in a specific way. You can name this SMD 001 for your first test, or ever how you want to do that. And that's totally up to you. If you leave it blank, it will auto-generate this name for you. And then the good part about that is it's got some keywords in it already that are easily searchable later. So we're just going to leave it for now and hit create. This may take a second. We use a lot of bandwidth when we're on a Zoom call trying to load up a form. All right, looks like we're starting to load up here. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to go over, I'm going to show you how to do the field moisture and density test. That's the most widely used part of a form like this. And then at the end, I'll kind of show you the max dry density. I'm going to skip pulverization. It's the same as the moisture. You enter a couple of numbers and it spits out a calculation for you. Most of you know how to do that. So as you can see from the sample, it has brought over our project name. It's brought over our sample ID, the date, which you can go in and change if you need to backdate it, if you actually performed the test the day before. But from what I'm hearing, the inspectors really like to enter directly into the form. Like if you're taking a density test or you just ran a field moisture, you know, it's easy to have the iPad right there with you and enter your test results in as it's happening, instead of writing it on a piece of paper and bringing it back to the office and doing it later, which is what we recommend. It will only allow you to select the line item that you selected in the sample ID. So I'm gonna go ahead and choose that now. Section and test number, you know, if you have, you know, say this is, you know, 21 zones in there and you're on the last zone, you could, you know, enter it this way. If your office documents this a different way, feel free to use whatever you want here. It's free text. You can put in whatever you need to put in. And then you can enter station number. You can see I've been working in this. So I'm just going to grab 210, which would represent that same, same section and test number. Now, I'm going to come back to field curve name later. This is something new. Right now, it's just free text, but that's more for the dry density. it would be good if you put it, what we're doing here is trying to name the max dry density curves. So it's just easier for you to see which curve you used on your sample here. So for now, I'm just going to enter in optimal moisture, and I've got some numbers here. Hopefully they work. Let's see what we got. 14.3, and then we'll go with a 114.1 to enter your max dry density. And this is actually where you go to enter your 3-point, but if you're not doing a curve, if you're just doing a density test, it needs to know what your proctor and your optimal moisture are, obviously, to calculate your results. And so we're just going to direct enter those here. And next we have the field moisture. Most of our samples these days are done with a field moisture. I think you can only do TR401 using the nuclear machines moisture if it's like raw soils and that kind of thing. Anything with an additive like cement, or if it's got some wrap blended in with it, you're going to have to use a 403. And I'll show you how to do that here in the form. There's a way to select between the two, but I'll be showing you an example of TR403. So we're going to go ahead and enter these results in now. So it's just two numbers. You can obviously type something in here. You can type a moisture in if you already have one, but most of the time you're going to be calculating this. And so let's let the form calculate it for us. So 506.2, you see, that's actually a good point. If you type in too many decimal places, it actually gives you a error message or a warning there and turns red to know that you have too many numbers in there. And then we're going to enter in our other number for the calculation, two numbers, and it spits out your moisture, right? So pretty simple, just a built-in calculator, a lot better than doing it by hand out in the field. You enter your two numbers and you're done. When you're done entering those and it's done the calculation for you, then you can hide that just so the form looks a little cleaner and gets you where you need to be. Like I said, pulverization is the same. You enter your three numbers here, it does the calculation, spits it out for you. And again, remember, the main point of doing this is when you're entering these numbers here, right, when you fill out this form, it goes to LIMS, and you do not have to go into the enter test results part of LIMS to enter yourself. So obviously you have location offset. We're just going to pick some stuff here. It could be the first lift, final lift, is base course, so it's most likely the final. We'll just say this is a 12-inch test. We'll just enter stuff in here, inspector badge number, that kind of deal. So this all should look familiar to you if you filled out a soil moisture density form, the paper form. It all is kind of the same. It looks similar. Your density counts, your standard counts, standard density and standard moisture, you can enter those in all the way across, or really you only have to enter one. So 25, 36, and 474. Sometimes when you're filling out the paper form, you'll fill them out all the way across. Sometimes you get your density test counts and that kind of stuff, and it will calculate that out for you. For this example, I'm just putting in the standard moisture and density. Before I enter the density test results, all forms that Headlight has created for us, they have an add photo button here. I'm going to go ahead and add it because this will help me explain something to you. Let me grab this density test here. So this is an image of a nuclear machine, and this would be a great practice. Is what I recommend is, as you're taking the test, go ahead and add an image of the actual machine into your form. It just gives you some extra documentation to back you up that your numbers are correct. And then also it gives you a point of reference. If it's not calculating correctly, you can go back here and check and make sure you didn't type in the number wrong, right? You're welcome to add a description here. Remember, whenever you upload an image to a Headlight form, it automatically creates an observation for you in the Fieldbook app, which is a great, that's very handy to have out in the field, that you're documenting two places, and that gives you a little easier way to keep up with it. So I'm gonna do complete, but let that load up here. But one thing you might notice is that this looks a little different from our paper form. You might notice that it is rearranged. And what I've done here is we got Headlight to rearrange those in the order that it is on the nuclear machines. So I remember when I was in the field, it was always a pain in the neck to have to switch back and forth. You were always jumping around the paper form to enter these. Now you have the ability to just enter them straight number for number off of the machine. That really helps if you have somebody calling the numbers out to you. For this demonstration, so I was talking about the TR401, it will do that, and you can enter it in just off the machine like you have here. But if you use this selection, and I always recommend before you start entering numbers, tell the form what you're trying to do. If you're wanting to use the moisture that you cooked out in the field, you want to select TR403. Since most of our samples are going to be a TR403, I'm going to go ahead and do that here. You'll see that it enters the 13.2 that came from our calculation earlier, all the way across, and it grays out these areas so that you cannot enter anything in there. It gives you your max dry density. It pulls that down from what you entered here, and it has to have that for the calculations, the density calculations. All right, so when you do a TR403, basically all you have to have is a wet density, and we enter the moisture by mass, even though it's not in the calculation. So I'm going to go ahead and enter a couple of these in. Let's see, 124.9, 15.9. You can see it's already doing the calculations. 124.5, 16.3, and then you have a 124.2 and a 16.5. And you can see that it automatically tells you what your percentages are based off of the calculation off of your wet density. You know, if you were doing TR401, the machine uses the moisture that it reads to do the calculation. So those are two different things there. You can see we have a passing density here, 96.4. So this looks good. You can type your name in here, signature, add remarks if you want. Usually a photo is better. But you know, sometimes you might have something that you need the PE to be aware of. You can type that into remarks. When you're done, you can click save here, and there's even a way that you can submit this and have it reviewed. I don't recommend doing that until you are for sure complete and done with the form. Make sure that it has gone over to LIMS and that those tests have been calculated there before you submit this. So we're just going to close it now. You can also duplicate the form, download it. Duplicate, I would probably not use for a while. I think that's a feature that will come later. And you can obviously download it if you need to send it to somebody, or you know, usually the best part about something being on the web is you don't have to download it. You can just let somebody who has authorization log in to see it. Headlight has actually just recently, within the past week, added a new feature, and I'm assuming that this will be added to all forms. It's pretty neat. I think it's going to help us out. They're adding a discussion section. So this does not become part of the record of the form, but it's a way for you to communicate back and forth with whoever will be reviewing this, or really anybody who has authorization to be in this form. Unless you type comments back and forth, you know, in case there are some issues or something. If somebody notices something is not correct, you'll be able to discuss that here. I've not fooled with it too much, so I don't know that much about it. I just know it's a cool feature, and I'm looking forward to that on all of our forums. All right, so now that we've done a density, I'm just going to switch over real quick to a different form. I've already created this one, so we don't have to wait for it to load. And I'll go over the max dry density real quick. So when you do your 3-point curve, you're not going to obviously enter your optimal moisture in Proctor, because that's what you're actually trying to collect here. You're going to select the slider, and it's going to open up something before it will give you more entries, and that's you have to select a mold. It's a little difficult to see this, so I want to make sure we understand. The first thing you have to do is select a mold here. I'm going to use the 1/10 cubic foot in this example. You can see we added room for 5 different molds. We know that this is 98% of the time there's a 3-point here, but the TR does allow for you to have extra molds if it does not break over on the wet side. So we just made that option available. You'll probably never use these. Let's see, I think I have some numbers somewhere to put in here. Okay, so we're going to start here with D. and I'm gonna start entering some numbers. 27.25, 16.77. You'll see once you get these two, it'll start doing some calculations for you. 524.5, we're entering in our mass of the wet soil and mass of dry soil. And that's going to start spitting out some more calculations. Hopefully I'm not typing these numbers in wrong so it looks right. And it's a good example for you. So there's two, and then there's one last one. And the cool part about this is when you click that last one away, this is something you can see here that it gives you your, it automatically calculates this in the background for you. It tells you what your max density is, what your proctor is, and it gives you what your optimum moisture is. And then right below it, you can see that it actually graphs it for you. Very thankful to have Patrick on the team. Patrick understands the math behind this, so he was able to help Headlight out in developing this. It's really neat to be able to see the graph and see where you're at on your max dry density here. One thing that you will notice, if you hand calculate this with the paper form and then do it in here, you will notice that the moisture content is going to be really close. It's usually dead on, maybe a 10th higher or lower, but it's almost always exact. You will notice that the max dry density is going to be a little bit lower. Not much. I think, I can't remember what percentage. I did several of these and came up with a percentage lower. It was not a whole lot. But what that has to do with is we're not using the paperclip method, right? So this is actually more accurate because it's the math behind it. So what we're saying is we're going to use this for a while, get some data. If it looks like we're having problems, if it's a little too easy to get density, we can adjust this later. So while you're testing this out, like in the first job you do with it, run a few calculations and then, give us some feedback on that and tell us how it's going and make sure that the densities are looking correct in the field. But so far, the people we've had using this have not had any issues. They've all looked good. So I wouldn't be worried about it. I'm just letting you know ahead of time. So that's pretty much have on it. This form does a lot. I'm pretty excited about it. And hopefully you are too. We'll be turning it on shortly now that we have some a little bit of training for you guys. Hopefully you have some dirt jobs out there that you can use this on. So I'm gonna stop sharing. Are there any questions? I see there's a couple messages in here.
Yeah, I was going to say, Les, we didn't have many questions, but Amanda did say she wished that we could have that in a lab. And, I think that is something that we can kind of jot down and see if we can do some of those things for you guys in the lab. Yes, it's been my my thought process to try to see if we can work more with the labs and see if we can get some things under the belt that could really help and assist you guys. So,
well, I do want to mention there. So actually, your wish is going to come true, Amanda, because we just signed a contract with Headlight to build a LIM system for us. So we signed a contract maybe a month or two ago. And so they will be working here very shortly on building the lab form so that you guys can enter directly into a form like that, which in general will be the same form that our inspectors use, right? So the inspectors, like say structural concrete, when they fill out that form in Headlight, your technician in your lab that breaks the cylinder will be able to go into the same form. Obviously, the inspector part will be grayed out for them. They'll be able to go into the same form and enter the test results where they break the cylinders. And so we'll all be working on the same, singing from the same sheet of music there and working in that same form so that it'll eliminate a lot of this back and forth that we've been doing. So just be looking out for that. That's one great thing. We brought Kevin Barbier on board, who is expert in the lab, and we also just had Marty Farkas join us, who has lots of lab experience, and they will be working with you guys in the labs very closely on building these forms and making sure we're getting them right for you. The first version you see might be simple. It might just be a couple of entry boxes where you can get the job done, but it might not have all of the niceties that form has. It takes a long time to get that developed. We'll get it working, make it something that's user-friendly, and then really add on those great features later.
Middle of the job, the things.
And no more site manager.
And no more site manager, correct. That's where we're headed.
We've also ordered additional iPads that we're gonna give a couple to each lab so that you guys have one for field use also.
All right, cool.
Awesome. Thanks you. Thank Les. Really appreciate that for diving real deep into the soil moisture and density form. I appreciate that. And also Patrick for informing them on some things to look forward to in the future. I do want to open it up. I know you guys saw 2 demonstrations on today. If there are any questions about either of them, feel free to drop those in the chat or say them out loud. We do have a few minutes that we can kind of dive into any of those. So feel free. While we're thinking about that, make sure that you guys know that you can access both of those forms. You can either start that form inside of Fieldbook and then finish it off in materials or vice versa. So that is something that is available to you as well. Also, there's videos out there that support how to be able to create a sample and then attach that form to that sample inside of the materials app. So if you haven't really taken a deep dive into materials, you can definitely look for that video as well as the Academy section inside of materials, which will be able to help you as well. All right, let's see. We do have a question out there. Thank you, Jared, for that question. When will the moisture density form go live for use on all on active projects?
Bill, you can use this as the official ask, the official request. If you want, we can go ahead and turn it on. Now that we have some training out there,
yes,
I can upload this webinar to our YouTube page so somebody can go in and look at that if they're having issues. So just as soon as this webinar is over, we'll go ahead and get them started. It might take them a little while to get those turned on, but hopefully soon. If you got a job that's got some dirt on it,
yes,
we'd love for you to start using it.
Okay, well, I'll accept that as the official ask, and I'll make sure that we get that turned on for all projects. How about that?
Sounds great to me. Thank you.
All righty. Do we have any other questions out there? Glad to see some people are already eager to kind of dive into that form. So just while we have it, I'll go ahead and ask, was anybody able to add the image observation to their main menu while we were on a call? Was anybody able to demo bulk tagging or have any experience using bulk tagging? If you've used any kind of bulk tagging, just drop a line in the chat saying that, hey, I've used it before, or this is a new feature that you would probably give it a try leaving this meeting on today. Just let us know. While we're doing that and we're waiting on some of those replies, I'll turn it over to Patrick and the e-construction team if they would like to just go ahead and give them any more updates in regards to what's going on, anything in the schedule that we have. I do want to go ahead, before I pass it over to them, let you guys know, make sure that you check out the e-newsletter. There is a optional Q&A that is going to be later on this month. Would love to have you guys. That's where we will answer any and all questions. Feel free to bring any of those question scenarios to that meeting. And then later on in the month, towards the end of the month, we have a micro learning session, okay? And that's going to be a very short session, but it just allows for you guys to check out some new features. And I'm actually going to show you guys how to actually edit a report for a prior day or for a day in the future, okay? So make sure that you guys put those dates on your calendar. Look forward to seeing most of you guys attend for those. Now I'll go ahead and pass it over to you, Patrick.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Les. Yeah, just the big stuff coming down the pipeline. Like Les said, we have a new agreement with Headlight that's basically going to replace the few pieces that we still have in Site Manager, which includes change orders, processing estimates, a lot of the contract admin side of things, as well as looking at getting a new LIMS up in place. And as we do that, I know I'm tasking the e-construction group where we're looking at ways of trying to consolidate some of the data and clean up some of the data. I know right now we have almost 1,500 material codes. We're looking at ways that we can kind of break those in between a material and a use code. So we may hit up just some of our subject matter experts around the state just to get some feedback and their thoughts on, as we move forward with some of these changes. Is it something that will drastically impact and require massive amounts of training, or is it something that, as people see, it's more intuitive, it's more understandable? Because, as an example right now, how many people can do type A backfill? That's been the funnest one, right? We're looking at ways to handle a lot of situations like that and make it more intuitive and make it more user-friendly as we progress with some of these new interfaces and get these things out here. So we do ask that everyone just kind of bear with us. This contract is supposed to run over the next year for getting things in place and implementation and training out. So there will be a little bit of, having to go between Site Manager and between Headlight. Hopefully we can get everything pushed forward from Site Manager to Headlight, where you can just pick up where you left off as the new modules get in place. But as with any new development, there's going to be a few kinks in the way, and we'll work through them and we'll get everything set up and out, and hopefully we can get out of our current Site Manager situation as soon as possible.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. I appreciate that. Anybody else from the e-construction team want to share any any details or anything like that before I allow Headlight to have any kind of closing words?
I got a couple of things. There's a couple of comments. Thanks, Kevin, for letting us know. He says the discussion feature is already active for the other forums, so that's great to know. Then the YouTube channel, Eric asked about the YouTube channel. There is a link to it in the newsletters that we send out. Somebody just grabbed it here and put it in here. So you can also just search LADOTD HQ construction and it should pop up. So there's a couple ways to find that. And then I thought I saw one more, maybe not. Yep, I think that's all I have. Matt just asked about when we find out if a density form's live. Once it's live, I'll send something out. Let everybody know.
Awesome. Yep. I'll be able to I'll send that over to you guys, Les, and then you can kind of send out a quick blast or something like that to notify everybody that it's available. But thank you guys for attending. I know you guys could have been anywhere else pretty much, or doing anything or on a project, but you took the time to be with us, and hopefully it was very helpful. We're going to make sure that we continue to bring you guys great content and kind of keep us progressing as far as in Headlight software. So feel free to, like I said before, reach out to us with any feedback or anything like that that you have that you want to bring to our attention. On the Headlight side, do we have any kind of closing remarks from anybody, from our learning program manager or from our strategic account manager? Do you guys want to say any kind of parting words?
All I want to say is I'm so glad to finally see that form, because I can remember talking about that literally over a year ago when we were beginning the materials classes. I know it's been asked for, and I love to see the calculations and the graphing and all that. That's awesome. Really love it.
Appreciate that, Mark. Hey, Breck, what about you?
Nothing here. Thanks for joining. Very informative. Thank you, Philip, for doing that. This has been great, and everyone coming together as a team. So hope to talk to you guys soon.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. You guys have a wonderful day.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, guys. Bye.